Hey there, if you've ever just sat back and thought, wow, my world is just too loud, then this is for you. Today, we're going to explore this really powerful idea of finding stillness right in the middle of all that noise.
So let me just ask you, and I think you probably already know the answer. Is your world too loud? And I'm not just talking about, traffic or the construction down the street. I mean the constant kind of overwhelming hum of modern life.
Because it's coming from everywhere, isn't it? Our phones are buzzing, our screens are glowing, our calendars are just packed. It's this nonstop fire hose of input that keeps our minds racing, even when our bodies are trying to be still.
At the very heart of this is a verse you've probably heard before, Psalm 46:10. But here's the thing. This isn't some gentle suggestion to just relax. The original Hebrew is way more intense. It's more like cease striving or let go. It's really a command to stop trying to control everything and remember who's actually in charge.
Okay, so let's dive into this first big idea. We are living in a world of noise. And in an age like this, getting quiet isn't a luxury anymore. It's absolutely essential. It's how we find perspective, how we find peace, and how we connect to something deeper.
Now, to see how this works, let's look at this amazing story about the prophet Elijah. His experience completely flips the script on how we expect to hear God's voice. This is all about learning to listen in a totally different way. We have this idea, right? That if God speaks, it's got to be this booming voice from the clouds, a lightning bolt moment, something you just can't deny. Well, Elijah was a guy who had just seen God send fire from the sky, a huge win. And yet, right after that, he's totally exhausted, discouraged, and hiding out in a cave. So as Elijah's waiting there, this crazy, powerful wind starts tearing the mountains apart. But the Lord wasn't in the wind. Then comes a violent earthquake that shakes the ground beneath him. But the Lord wasn't in the earthquake either. And after that, a blazing fire, just one spectacular display after another. But God wasn't in any of them.
And then, after all the drama, after all the noise, came a gentle whisper. Some translations even call it a still, small voice, or a sound of sheer silence. And that's where God was, in the quiet. That's when Elijah knew he was there.
So what does this ancient story have to say to us today? Well, three really big things. First, God's voice is often subtle. It's more of a quiet nudge than a loud shout. Second, all of our own distractions, the wind, earthquake, and fire in our lives, can totally drown that voice out. And third, choosing to be still, to wait through all that noise, to hear the whisper, well, that's a huge act of faith. Okay, so if stillness is so important, why in the world is it so hard to find? Let's talk about the real barriers we're all up against. It helps to name what's getting in the way. I mean, here's the fundamental conflict, right? Our culture is constantly screaming at us that hustle is what matters, that being constantly connected is the key. But stillness offers this completely different story, that rest isn't lazy, it's essential, and that being truly present is way more powerful than just being busy. And we can get even more specific. There are four main hurdles that probably sound really familiar. One, we've been taught to think that being still means you're being lazy. Two, our attention is just shattered into a million pieces by our devices. Three, even if it's quiet on the outside, our own minds are a noisy mess of worry and fear. And four, if we're being honest, sometimes we're just afraid of what might pop up if we actually get quiet. We've talked a lot about the why, but let's shift gears to the how, because this isn't about achieving some impossible spiritual state. It's about having a few practical tools in your toolkit. We're going from the problem to the practice. And the most important thing here is to start simple. Seriously, just try this little three-step rhythm. First, find a spot that's usually quiet and try to go there consistently. Second, get rid of distractions. And yep, that means actually putting the phone away, maybe even in another room. And third, just build a simple rhythm. A couple deep breaths, a short prayer, maybe read one verse. That's it. That's the start. You've probably heard this word mindfulness, and this is a really helpful way to think about it. This isn't about emptying your mind until it's a total blank. It's actually the opposite. It's about filling your mind on purpose with an awareness that God is present with you right here, right now. So here are a few little anchors you can use to do that. You can just focus on your breath, and as you exhale, imagine you're releasing your attention to God. Or you could slowly repeat a simple verse that calms you, like, "The Lord is my shepherd." Or just engage your senses. What do you actually see right now? What do you hear? What can you feel? And then just turn those little observations into quick, thankful prayers. All right, theory is great, but real change happens when we actually do something. So let's talk about a super simple, no-pressure experiment you can try this week to bring all this to life. Okay, here's the challenge. For just one day, try a little noise fast. Pick one of your main distractions, not something you need for your job, but one of those things you use to fill up the quiet spaces. So, what's your go-to? For a lot of us, it's that endless social media scroll. Or maybe it's binging shows, or having the news on all the time, or even just constantly having a podcast or music playing in the background. Just pick one. And here's the game plan for that day. Step 1, don't just leave an empty space. When you feel the pull for that noise, replace it with something, like a quick prayer or just a moment of quiet reflection. Step 2, just notice. How do you feel? A little antsy, relieved? Just be curious. And step 3, maybe jot down a few notes about what you noticed. No pressure, just see what happens. This quote just nails the whole idea, doesn't it? We're not creating God's presence by being quiet. He's always active, always at work. Stillness is just us tuning our hearts to the right frequency so we can finally notice him. And look, this isn't really about a one-day experiment. The reason this matters, the long-term payoff, is huge. It leads to a deeper sense of peace that you can carry with you, way more clarity when you have to make big decisions, and just this stronger day-to-day awareness that God is right there with you, in the middle of everything. Let's just be really clear about this. In a world that basically worships being busy, choosing to be still is a radical, countercultural thing to do. It's like you're declaring that your worth isn't based on how much you produce, and that God's voice matters more than all the other noise out there. So, as we wrap this up, the final question isn't for me, it's for you. This isn't some big, abstract idea. It's a practical, personal choice. Just look at your life, right now. What's the one noise you can turn down today, even just a little bit, to make some room to hear that whisper?